Several users are reporting overheating issues using Stadia.
But the hardware is actually in a server somewhere. You never see
Hot
it.
take! Hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, this is getting bad, folks. There have been a number of issues since the launch of the Stadia.
What are you talking about? Well, but even before the launch of Stadia,
Yes.
the build up to Stadia, we had controller functionality issues where they're like, oh, well, the controller won't actually work with every device on day one. Lackluster sort of launch titles. There have been shipping problems and people not getting codes and stuff. And then we dabbled with Stadia as well. We had a review that's up on Hot Take now. What did we think about Stadia?
When it works, it's pretty good sometimes, but it's not perfect. And the majority of the times that we've played the machine, I'd say 75% of the time now, or the machine, the service, it just doesn't work that well. Issues with latency, lag, poor visual quality, and sometimes sound too.
Sound issues. We had streaming articles, framiness. It just goes on and on.
It really
right?
does.
But now we have yet another blemish, possibly another blemish to add to the pile of steaming Stadia that we have now.
Now, unfortunately, this is something that is going to affect a lot of people. We did a lot of research on this because we were honestly certain that it must have just been a small amount of people having this problem. But it turned out, upon the research we did, this is actually a much more serious problem than anyone's going to lend it credence. But think about this first. Stadia isn't on any one piece of device, okay? You can be using a different TV, you could be using your laptop, you could be using your cell phone. But if you got the Founders Edition, you got this controller and you got this hockey puck here.
Yes.
This is the Chromecast, okay? The
Chromecast Ultra.
This is a very specific version. The Chromecast Ultra is a device you can buy in stores right now. It specifically, the Ultra version, goes to 4K. And this gives you the ability to play Stadia in 4K. And of this current moment, it is the only way to play Stadia in 4K.
Yeah, so if you want to play Stadia in 4K, you use this dongle. And if you want to use Stadia with the controller, you need the dongle as well, right?
Yes, to use the controller the way it's intended. Now, this controller doesn't connect through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to this. It actually connects directly to your Wi-Fi connection to the server. So it never actually talks to this device at all. It's a little confusing, but to use this controller the proper way, you need to use this at least on day one. So why is that a problem? Well,
there are reports.
There are reports.
Specifically, there was a thread on Reddit.
Yes.
And many people have been posting under that that there have been issues with the device you're holding right now, the Chromecast Ultra, overheating after gaming sessions as low as 4 hours, which I assume, like, for a lot of people, that's pretty standard gaming session.
It really would be. So keep this in mind. We're not talking about the Stadia servers overheating. We're not talking about your TV overheating. We're literally talking about this little device here has been overheating on people. Now, we haven't played it enough to have any issues happen. To be fair, the only times I have played it have been on a 1080p screen. I didn't bother playing in 4K because honestly, it wasn't even working at 1080. What was 4K going to be doing for me? So we were like, this can't be a widespread issue.
Yes.
So we did the research. I was curious how these products have been on the scene since 2016, 2017. There have been revisions and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I can actually identify up until the point in 2016, people have been having these overheat whenever they tried to run 4K content for an extended period of time. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 2 hours. It really depends. These overheat, and when they do, they instantly turn off.
Yeah, that's not something you want in a live sort of streaming service gaming for sure. So this is a problem that I have to assume that the engineers at Google have known since 2016, right?
Well, it goes beyond that.
Oh!
Yes.
Oh, does it now?
The original Chromecast that was released onto the market also had overheating problems, and in some cases, other more bigger issues that cause problems with your TV directly. Believe it or not, these problems have been around for a while, so there has been revisions. In fact, the first Chromecast I ever got, which wasn't this model, it broke and we had to buy a new one.
We've had issues like on this show, like full disclosure, we use a Chromecast a lot of the times. We have one plugged in right now, and it dies.
Yes.
Sometimes we're talking and we want to look at notes, and they're not there.
Yes, this is a constant problem. But specifically for Stadia users, why is this such a big issue? Well, if you're using this on a 4K TV, and look, we can't confirm that it doesn't overheat when it does 1080 as well. We're only confirming 4K because that's what we've seen so far, but it could overheat otherwise as well. When you play in 4K, after a little bit, it gets really, really hot to the touch and overheats. Now, we've had issues, we've identified that since 2017, people have been finding solutions to fix this. So here
Oh, boy.
are the solutions.
Okay, so this isn't specifically with Stadia in mind, but
No.
this is just with Chromecast heating up, which is the issue right now with some Stadia
and
users.
some of these users have been using these fixes to actually fix their Stadia. But believe it or not, it's not just a firmware patch or anything like that that has been used, because as far as we can tell, if there was going to be a solution, a software solution to fix this, it would have happened by now for this specific product.
Oh my gosh, I hope that's not the case. I hope they're like, no, there's firmware coming out that's going to fix that, because this is the birth of this new service, right?
Yes.
We need an immediate fix for this.
But we can identify since 2017, they haven't offered a solution to fix this
So
issue, meaning that probably...
You're not expecting anything anytime soon.
No, that's what I...
Okay, do you want to look at some of these solutions that people have? This is kind of fun.
This is going to look a little wild, folks, but here's the first one here. So this is a heatsink that was installed from a user on Reddit named Phoenix. What he's done here is he's taken a round heatsink and attached it to the back underside of the Chromecast.
He's created a hairbrush.
Yes, he has. This heatsink here, believe it or not, from what he explains, does work. It properly takes the heat out from the Chromecast and distributes it into those pipes. If you've never seen a heatsink before, all it really is a thick piece of metal on one side and a bunch of little pipes or basically poles on the other, or some kind of design.
And the heat's pulled into all those little nubbins.
Yes, and it allows it to cool itself off a lot easier. These are a very common PC thing. You also see this in consoles if you open them up, but you don't see them in too many devices like this. But apparently this fixed the issue. For other users that didn't have that exact same heatsink, they went for other things. So the next one we're going to see is a little bit more chunkier.
Yeah.
This is a strapped large PC-style heatsink to the back of the Chromecast. This is from the user Sir Bonacy off of Reddit. Apparently what he said that this works. Now keep in mind, both of these solutions are supposed to hang off the back of your TV.
Yeah, that is scary.
Yeah.
I love this because when the Google folks were initially talking about Stadia and what it was, hey, get rid of that console. You want more space in your like entertainment whatever center. This is not what I was thinking of.
No.
You're basically creating a console, like one part at a time. Maybe eventually we'll get to that, right?
Yeah. So the next one we saw was, I think it was a little bit more refined. So what this user did was they took a small heatsink, attached it to one side, and then a fan on the other side to cool it down. Now this looks a lot better, I think, than the other options because there's an actual like solution here that actively cools it, and that's what the fan is for. But these are users figuring out these solutions. Now,
re-engineering what these great engineers at Google should have
probably
had fixed
initially,
a very long time ago.
Now, this is from user on Spindle on Reddit. One thing he did that was very important too is that fan has a separate power source. So if you're using a separate power source, that means you have to power it separately, and that can be issues for some users. Plus, if you're not familiar with this stuff, I seriously do not recommend wiring things yourself. The other solutions prior to this were just a heatsink attached. Now, the last one is by far the most extreme method we've seen, and I gotta explain what you're looking at here. So this is from user on Reddit named Errant, and what he's done is he's taken a smaller heatsink.
I see the rods.
It's the rods.
It's similar to the first one we saw.
He's taken the interior components of the Chromecast out of the shell, attach those rods to the back, and then there's also a fan there that's constantly blowing cold air onto it. Now, all of these pictures you're seeing are from various different years because this is an issue that has gone on for a very long time.
It's been a known issue, but I think that it probably didn't bubble up as much in the mainstream media because a lot of people were probably watching maybe their 4K content. They finish their movie after 2 hours or so, and they're done. They turn off whatever their television. But when you have a streaming gaming service, a lot of people, like I know people that play for 8 hours a day if they're really, really into a game.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually the very big issue here too, that there's a lot of people out there that simply don't realize that not many people bought these Chromecasts maybe for the past couple of years. Like, we don't have a huge gaming, like, I mean, if you're watching a 4K series on a Chromecast that has multiple episodes, like let's just say Westworld, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, anything like that, those have multiple episodes. And guess what? You probably will overheat it over time. There's a whole bunch of situations, like maybe your house is cold. Maybe you live in an area that has much warmer weather. There are a whole bunch of factors that go into this.
Are you saying that because we live in Canada, if we plug one of these Chromecast Ultras in, we do not have to pay for heat for the rest of the winter?
Oh,
because that would be marvelous.
That would be great. I don't think that's the case, but it really could be something like that. that. If you're playing this is just how heating works,
well,
folks.
Shane, an email did get sent out to 9 to 5 Google, specifically from Google themselves, because this issue is getting a little more traction, right, as it's popping up. And Google stated that there are no thermal throttling issues with Chromecast Ultra. Shane, what does that mean?
Okay.
They say there's no thermal throttling issues.
Okay. So folks, I want this to be very specific. There's engineering speak, there's PR speak, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. From my knowledge of what that states, Google is not saying that the devices don't overheat. What they're saying is there's no thermal throttling issues. Thermal throttling is basically if you've got a device like this and it overheats, or it knows it's overheating, it will tune down its process to something that is easier to run so that it doesn't overheat and destroy itself. That's what thermal throttling is. Actually having a heat up event that breaks a device, that's basically an overheat. So they're not saying that the device doesn't overheat, which it does. We can prove that from multiple sources on Reddit. What we're saying here, or what they're saying, is that it won't thermal throttle, which, by the way, you probably want it to do that. Let's just say that this device is getting close to overheating. It should knock down its 4K graphics to 1080 or 720, something that it can run without utilizing so much processing power.
Basically give the machine a moment to catch its breath.
Yes.
And then when it's ready, when it's cooled down, it can go back to whatever, the 4K stream that you're watching.
Throttling on devices is a very normal thing. You see it on cell phones, you see it on consoles, laptops.
Sure.
It's across a bunch of things. But the fact that this doesn't do it, which I guess is what they're saying, that means that they didn't actually know that it overheated, or they simply weren't paying attention. So now, knowing this, if you are looking to get Chromecast Ultra, the one that's in the Founders Pack, or even one in the future, most likely, and you want to actually play this for 4K, we probably don't recommend it.
Or at least keep your ear to the ground as to whether or not there is some sort of firmware update. But like we said, they've had years to fix this, and they haven't done it yet. So I don't know. It seems bizarre. This seems like such a major overlook.
Yeah, it really does.
Right? For something as like Stadia is supposed to be this groundbreaking technology that is supposed to be
easy
seamless
thing to use
and easy. And like, oh my gosh, from the pre-launch to the launch to post-launch, we're just hearing about blemish after blemish that is making things more complicated and in many ways making it impossible to continue playing.
Yeah, I swear this is something you would not have seen from any other company. This is really becoming, I know it sounds like just like blowing things out of proportion. This, in my opinion, having seen multiple video game console launches throughout my entire life and paying attention to going back to the older ones to see what they were like, this is the worst platform launch for a video game device I have ever seen.
Worst ever, right?
That gives you a thought.
Well, Shane, at least it gives us that great feeling we had when we first picked up our 360s, and we saw those beautiful red rings.
That
so
hurt.
basically, the pictures that we saw earlier were the equivalent of the towel, towel technique, or the equivalent of people possibly taking their Virtual Boys and putting them in the oven.
Yeah,
which is completely stupid. If anyone remembers that or knows about that, I love you. So anyway, I think that pretty well sums it up.
Yeah, we're having issues with these devices, folks, and I think a lot of other people are as well. I would recommend to just hold off and wait and just listen to Google. They'll probably there's a chance they offer a software solution that fixes this.
Exactly.
It hasn't happened for years.
Have to listen. I feel like they should pull back the service.
Yeah,
and just be like, hey, we messed up. Here's your money back. Give us a couple months and we'll figure this out. See you in 2021. I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. Let us know what you think about all this in the comments below.
Yeah. And have you had it overheat on you? Please let us know.
Yes.